Hey, welcome to I'm That Mom, the podcast about motherhood without the pressure of perfection. My name is Katie. I'm a self-taught entrepreneur who started my baby company while pregnant and grew it to an 8-figure business as a single mom of 3. Join us as we discuss the fun, funny, and messy parts of motherhood. We're certainly not experts. We're just here to support all the moms and hopefully, collectively, we don't completely f*** it up. Okay, so everybody knows that motherhood is a thankless job. But being a stepmom, I think, comes with its own unique set of joys and challenges.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So I'm so excited to sit here and talk with you today about it. Stacey, who is our director of operations at Caden Lane and the most fabulous stepmom I have ever known.
Thank you.
You've been a stepmom for quite some time.
9 years now.
Yeah,
yes.
that's like pro level. You basically should just write a book about it. You've been a stepmom longer than me, so you definitely get the word. But I thought it'd just be fun for us to talk about our own experiences with it. Our kiddos are older now. Our stepchildren are in college.
One is, yes.
One of yours and one's in high school, and one of mine is in college too. No, both of mine are in college.
Oh,
yeah. So, but I think they were around the same age when they came into our lives. Tell a little bit of history on yours so people can get an idea.
So when I came into their lives, they were 8 and 6. I think the perfect age, but I'm a little biased because I don't know. I didn't have to deal with the toddler age, the terrible twos, the changing of diapers, and they knew right from wrong at that point, right? So I think it's the perfect age.
Yes, it was the perfect age because you didn't have to change diapers.
Yeah.
You didn't have to do midnight feedings. You didn't have to. Yeah, you actually bypassed some of the hardest.
Hardest, I think, years. Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
And now you are super close to them, which I love.
Yes.
But I don't think that just came easily. I think, and that's kind of what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Is like, maybe people that are newly in a step-parent role, what did we learn through it? What have we done right? What have we done wrong? My kiddos, my stepchildren were probably, I can more remember their grade they were in. I think that one of them was a freshman in high school, the boy, and then my stepdaughter was probably still in middle school. And I just remember she was just kind of so innocent and came into it.
Middle school is hard though. That's a hard time.
It is a hard time for sure. And when coming into the relationship and having to form a relationship with the kids early on, but then also having a relationship with their mother.
Yes.
Yeah, which I think both of us have done really well too, because we both have very close relationships with our stepchildren's mothers. So close that I call her to bitch about their father.
Yes. Not father. We call to talk. We used to call each other to talk about the kids and all the things. Yes.
Yeah. So can you remember back when you first came in, how did you, you weren't out the gate saying, call me mom, right?
No.
Yeah. Do you think that kiddos, I know they call you, well, actually, it kind of goes back and forth, right?
When they're introducing me and talking about me to somebody, they'll be like, this is my stepmom, Stacey. But they just call me Stacey, which is fine. I've never had an issue with that. Yeah.
But you refer to them as your children, which I think is awesome.
I do.
So and I do too. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a tricky situation because nobody really teaches you how to come into a step-children relationship.
Yes.
I grew up with a stepfather, and then later on got a stepmother too. So I had a bit of
experience.
Or just maybe a good experience that was like a role model to help me lean into it. And I definitely witnessed my stepfather not stepping on the toes of my father. So, but he was still,
present,
a parent, and a parent figure. And I think that's so important. We want to just be their friends, but we're not doing them any good.
If that's all we are. Yeah.
If that's all we are.
Yeah.
And so I think when, you're stepping into that role of being a step parent, it's so important to realize that you are, you have to kind of look at yourself as a support system. So you might be the parent that's running to Target at the middle of the night to get supplies for a project, a school project, or, you're helping drive them to their sports games. But at the end of the day, like when they're, you know, walking across the field at their senior high school football game, then maybe it is the mom and dad, you know, and you're kind of in the limelight. And I think that's important to recognize because it's an important role for the children. I think somebody once told me that kids, you know, can never have enough love. And so you don't just have to have the love of your mom and dad, like the more parent figures that are in your life.
It takes a village. That's what they say, right? So like the more people who can like raise these kids, the better, right?
And like, do you ever remember like an experience where maybe Layla came to you because she was upset with her mom and you were in the position of having to support the mom's discipline?
Maybe not so much upset with mom, but like the rules at different houses. I think that's what we struggled with the most. Like we didn't always have the same, I mean, basic rules, yes, but it wasn't the same at every house. And we had to be like, you know, she was upset with it and those weren't our rules, but we had to be like, well, different houses, different rules. Like that's, I think, one of the main struggles we had.
Did that work for you guys?
I mean, I think it was harder on them just because that's confusing, right? They went back and forth every week and it's just like, well, it's not like that at that house and vice versa. And so I think it was harder on them, but like, we just, hey, different houses, different rules.
But maybe it also, because your kiddos are fabulous. They're so polite, they're well behaved, they're doing all the right things. Maybe it taught them some resilience at an early age, which I think is so important for kids to learn. And you can only learn resilience through hard times. And not that it was hard, but basically you're saying it was a struggle. And I think, you know, they kind of learn like, okay, in different scenarios, it's different
not always
rules.
The same.
I don't always get what I want.
Life isn't always fair.
No, it wasn't.
That's my number one. I'm like, it's not always fair.
What do you think they would say was their favorite, like, non-role that you had that maybe their mom, you know, was opposite of, and then vice versa too?
Non-role meaning, what do you mean?
Like what did they love most about being at your home, and what did they love most about being?
I know what I loved most, and I hope they would answer the same. I don't know if it would, and it's something that we miss dearly now is our dinner time. So I made it a really big point that we all sat down together and had dinner together. Not every night, but like I just really wanted that, and I know they didn't always do that at their mom's house for different reasons, but that was just really important to me, and they I miss it now, and I know they do too. But that's something.
And had you not been in their life, you know, maybe both their you know parents, like birth parents, didn't value that, and so that's like a gift that you brought to them and said, you know, this is important to me, and it will be really cool when you see them do the same thing with their kiddos. Because I do think we impact our stepchildren's lives
for sure.
as much as the parents, and that's a really big role. What about, do you ever get asked like about favorites? Because people talk about they don't have favorites, right? Like that is a lie. Like I for sure have a favorite child at any given moment. And sometimes it's my birth children and sometimes it's my bonus children.
It varies,
And it varies depending on who's less assholey in the moment. But, you know, I do think it's important. I love all my children equally. And I know that you love your stepchildren like you birthed them. Even more so because you didn't have to do the hard years. But did that come naturally right away, or is it something you had to work towards?
Like being close with them, or
like were you nervous that maybe like, will I love these kiddos like my own?
No, I wasn't. So I remember the first time I like had to watch them. Like we weren't living together yet, me and their dad. And I remember the mom was busy and I had to like kind of babysit them, right? And I was so nervous. I remember what we did. I remember they loaded up in my car and I was like, oh, I got to go the speed limit. I was like, I'm going to break these kids. Like,
and they're 6 and 8, like not breakable ages.
Not breakable. No. But I was just like so nervous. And I was also like, they're just going to trust me with these kiddos. Like I didn't know them that, you know, it wasn't that many months into it, and I was so nervous, and we went shopping and we went to Chili's. I remember the whole thing.
They probably had the best day.
Yes, and we have a picture from that day, and it's one of my favorite. And like I look back at it and laugh all the time. I'm like, I remember when I thought I was gonna break y'all. Like, and I told them that story. I was like, I thought like, oh my gosh, what's this day gonna be like? And somebody had a meltdown. I think they found money on the floor, and then they were fighting who can have it, and somebody started crying, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know what to do right now.
I've broken them. I'm horrible. Like we're gonna break up.
And I was
now
like, how do I? And I was like, everybody's he's looking at me knowing I don't know what I'm doing. But now, like, I would not, I would miss a beat then. I'm like, it's, but in the moment I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And even, I mean, honestly, like, I think that's something all moms can relate to at any moment. Like, we don't even know what we're doing if the baby came out of our vagina. Like, let alone.
But I wasn't used to it. Yes. I was like, what?
And then, you were still kind of navigating a new relationship and really, coming into a whole new marriage and then also being thrown into being a mother of two. And it was, you guys had like a 50-50 schedule basically.
Every other week.
Yeah. So man, you're a badass, Stacey.
Thanks.
Yeah. On the flip side of having, because I have 3 birth children. And so when they go to their dads, and their dad's not remarried, but he's dated different women. And I've always really valued when the kids talk
highly,
yes, about the women that's in his life.
Yes.
And, to the point where even if I'm not a big fan of them, I'm like, but They are.
Yes.
And I loved that, like, if he was taking them to the beach, I didn't have to worry because I knew she was there to make sure their sunscreen was on.
Yeah, she would be doing all the mom duties.
Yes, because, like, let's face it, most dads aren't going to do it the way that we want it. But I think one thing all women and mothers really have in common is that caretaking, kind of
nurturing.
Yes. And so it made me feel better, even early on.
Yes.
When, a woman was in their presence, because I felt like, and, my youngest was just 3 when we got divorced.
Wow.
So she's really been molded by multiple women on the other side. But in a good way too, because I just think the more they experience and
different type of mothering too. Not everyone mothers the same way. Like, yes, we're all nurturing and all that, but we might be a little more stern, a little more empathetic. That's not me.
And make sure too, like, I have never spoken badly about my stepchildren's mother. I mean, I love her dearly, and we have a really close relationship to mothering. It's actually pretty awesome.
It is.
Because, like,
you have a best friend in it all. Yes.
Like, I've always, I've always said, like, if there were 2 moms, like, I totally get how 2 women are married and raise children, because 100%. It is an extremely efficient household.
Yes.
And so I get the like good parts of that, and then also having my husband in the relationship. But so I've never, I know this for a fact, I've never spoken badly about my children's real mother, birth mother, and then I've also never spoken badly about my own birth children's stepmoms. And I think that's important to remember, and I know you've done the same, because some people do have bad experiences. And neither of us can really talk to it, but
we can't speak on that.
I think it's within I think the reason we have good experiences is because you and I went into it with the right mindset. And that's so powerful in so many ways. Like, it's our decision to have a good relationship with the ex, even when our husbands maybe don't.
Yeah.
So that's right.
Yes.
Can you think of a scenario like where really, like you said, you've talked to her, the kid's stepmom, before about even just challenges with their dad, and y'all kind of like tag team, right? And like,
and
and you're not, and we'll say you're not married to them anymore,
no,
which kind of makes your situation even more special.
Yes.
Because the kids are still
my stepkids, even though I'm not with their father anymore.
And how amazing is that like you got to take the best parts. Like, that speaks a lot to how you impacted these children's lives, because they still see you as a parent.
Yes. And I didn't envision that happening. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Did you set out, like, did you want to be a mom, like, growing up? Like, kind of talk about.
So I wanted to have 6 kids.
You did?
I did. My dad's a twin, and I thought I was going to have 2 sets of twins and have 4 births and be absolutely fine. Like, let's have 6 kids.
Yeah.
But then you start getting older and you realize, like, I don't know about that. 6 is a lot. So when I did meet my ex and the kiddos, right away, one of my first questions was like, hey, do you want more kids? Because I thought I did.
Because you knew you still wanted more.
That door was still open, So I asked, and he said yes, and he said he wanted to be a young dad, but he was like, open-minded to it, but I could tell, like, I don't know. I didn't think it was maybe
It wasn't a certain thing.
for him.
How old were you?
I was 28 when I met him.
Oh, yeah. So you were right. Yeah. At the age where
like
we have kind
start
of
thinking about it.
Our
yes.
internal clocks are like, do we want kids? Do we
Yes.
not? You had to take that into consideration when marrying somebody that had already had a family. And then it just didn't.
Well, so then and that was very early on. That was like month one. Like, hey, you have to ask all those questions, right?
Absolutely. To anybody listening,
Ask the questions.
Have those conversations.
Yes.
And make sure you're on the same page.
Yeah.
I do think it's important. And now you sitting here, you probably would preach it even more. Like,
ask the questions.
Ask
yes.
the questions, yeah.
So then like a few more months in, maybe 6, I don't know the timeline, but we started, maybe it was when we moved in together and lived together, I started thinking about the dynamic and how that would look. And at that point, I think maybe Layla was 10. So probably 2 years later, I'm like, well, she's 10 years old now. And if I wanted to have a kid, that kind of started going away. And I was like, if I wanted to have one, she's going to be 10 years older than this kid, which is fine. I know families do that. And there's all different types of families out there. But then I was like, then they'll go to their moms every other week and then they'll be split up. Like they won't be that like family, Yeah. And then I just was like, why do and that need started like going, or the want started going away. And I'm like, I have 2 perfectly great kids right here. Why do I, feel the need to want my own? So it just started going away. And then I made the decision, like, you know what? I'm good. I think I'm good.
Really?
Yes.
So you felt like it was a conscious decision of.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of women, even women struggling with infertility, kind of have to have a moment with just themselves, right? Where they're like, I really have to think about, do I want, and you were considering, do I want to start all over?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, I was.
I get that. That's hard. Me and my youngest brother are 10 years apart. And so it is a big age gap.
Did y'all spend time apart or?
No, I mean, so
it was stepbrother or brother?
It was actually my real brother.
Okay,
yeah. So, real brother. I'm one of 6 kids, and so your fantasy, I will tell you, is mass chaos.
Yeah.
Especially coming from somebody that has 5 children.
Yes.
Like I'm pretty sure all my children are only going to have 1 child
or none.
Or none.
I know one who doesn't want any.
Yeah, but I bet that was like a big internal struggle for you because you also. You recognize that the kids go back to their moms every other weekend.
Yes.
And so your me time disappears.
Yes.
With it.
It was a little bit about that, but just them not feeling like a part of our family anymore, like feeling actual stepkids, like in the negative way that everyone talks about it, right? Like I just didn't want them to think like we were living a life without them,
I see you were the best stepmom because you literally made that decision based on how it would make your stepkids feel. Yeah. And not how it would make yourself feel. Yeah. So, and I think it worked out in a great way for you.
I think so too. Yes.
Even now, and even now, I know you're still open to like maybe one day.
Maybe one day. You
if
can't
there's
ever
any
close
really
doors.
hot single men listening to this podcast, one, I'm going to question why because all we do
Why
is
are
talk
you
about
on
vaginas.
here?
Yeah, but for any women listening that might know a really solid, amazing man, like the most amazing woman is sitting across to me, and she is an amazing stepmom and amazing mother.
Thank you.
Too. So, but yeah, I love that for you. And I think you're going to be an amazing grandmother one day too.
Yes.
Whether it's that you have more children or it's your current children's kids.
Yeah.
Like, I love that for you because you don't, I think, do you ever feel like you missed out, like that you were robbed from it?
Not yet.
Not yet?
No, I haven't yet. And hopefully I won't. Like, I don't think that I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't even blink when people say, like, do you have children? You're like, yes, I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the biggest challenges as a stepmom that you think you've had to overcome?
I think just different rules and different mothering, like
styles.
Yeah, mothering styles. So I remember once Noah was doing a project at school, and I'm maybe not as patient. I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I was being a little strict and stern, like, you had all this time to do it. Why are you doing it? Go upstairs and do it.
Yeah.
And he just got so mad at me because I wasn't being patient with him like his mom would have been, right? And I wasn't pausing to maybe take that in consideration. And he this is the most...
He lost it.
Yeah. That's one and only time, thankfully. And he's, stomped upstairs, slammed his door, and his dad wasn't home. And I was like, I don't know how to manage this. And of course I called their mom. Yeah. And of course right away she was like, are you kidding me? He's grounded at both of our houses. Like, I can't. Yeah. She was definitely on my side, but it's just, I feel like we just both pushed each other. Like I definitely pushed him because he wasn't used to my parenting style. So I think that's a big challenge, to not be so forceful maybe with your, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like, honestly, you handled it really well. I mean, did he not say, I'm going to my mom's house?
No, they've never done that. They've never threatened that. No, they've never done that. Now, they've wanted to stay extended. They were definitely like, if it was coming from a negative place, they were never like, I don't want to be here. They've never said that, thankfully. Maybe they felt that way, but they never told me that.
I have had it happen to me with my own children.
No.
And with the stepkids. I'll speak to one with my own. So my middle daughter, Ashlyn, this was probably when she was like 13, and she got so mad at me because I had taken away her phone for probably being sassy. Yes. And she only went to her dad's on like every other weekend, and she was pretty good about it. But I knew that she really preferred to be at my house. And so I knew she was mad at me when she did the whole, she packed up her whole room. And she was like, I'm going to dad's. And she called her father and was like, Mom is terrible and I hate her, and like all the things. And I'm just like sitting there like, oh my God. Yeah. And he came and got her, and he did not handle it the right way. How you just have like the best step parenting relationship. This whole rest of the podcast should be literally like how I have screwed up my children, step parenting, and trying to figure out how to do multi-family houses.
It's hard.
So she packed up her whole thing, and he picked her up, and she was basically like, peace out, I'm never coming back. And oh my God, I cried. Like I called my best friend and I was like, Ashlyn's gone. Like she's gone to her dad's. And I was so upset. And I didn't know what to do. And I remember, gosh, I can't even remember if I called my own mother or my best friend on this, but whoever it was told me, you have to let it be. Like if you fight her, she is going to fight you back. And everyone's got to calm down, and you've got to give it a moment, and she will eventually come back. And I think she stayed there for a whole week, and it was my hardest week because all I wanted to do was call her and say, I'm sorry, but she really was being a bitch. And so she needed to have her phone taken away. And, but like following through with that when your children are telling you how horrible they are, and then having the ability, when you have one household and they don't have a place to go. Yeah. And so they want to be fed. They have to like come down and apologize. But when you have a second household, they get to just go, peace out. I'm out. I definitely did that to my parents now too. Like, okay, I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, for how horrible I probably was as a teenager. I remember getting mad at my mom, and I couldn't drive yet, and my dad lived 2 doors down. We were really weird. And I like packed up my suitcase and I rolled it down the street, and I like walked all the way down. I was like, I'm never coming back. And then, I think I stayed down there for a while, and then I was like, I miss my mom too, and because you have a relationship with both, and back and forth. But yeah, I mean, that's hard.
Yes, but that's also a blessing, I think, for the kids as well, to be able to leave and
to
us
be able
as
to
parents,
play both families against each other.
Well, they
that's
do that
what it
too.
feels like. Yeah.
But us as parents letting them, we know they're in a safe spot, and then they learn like it's like a coping thing too. Like when you get older, if you need a minute, just maybe go somewhere else. Go to another room if you're fighting with your spouse or something.
You're like Counselor Stacey. Next time we're going to introduce you as like Counselor Stacey. So let me tell you more of my
Let's
issues.
go. I'm ready.
So now, like as having fully grown stepchildren, Recently, I've had one, you know which one, got mad at me. I won't, it will remain nameless on this podcast in case he or she is listening. But oh my God, this child got so mad at me and packed up the stuff and stormed off to the moms. And the mom called me and was like, no. And I was like, your turn. I can't do this.
Yes.
So there's a lot about
it's also harder when they get older because I think middle school, especially high school, they know everything and they're right and you're wrong and it's your rules are crazy, why can't I stay out all night, and so I think they blow up a little more. It's shorter,
play both sides.
But 100% we had a little bit of that too.
I don't think there's any learning manual on this, right? You just figure it out as you go and pray that you're not screwing up children. I've got a blended family of birth children and stepchildren, and your kiddos might someday. Yeah. Right? I forget. Do they have?
No, they won't. I don't think so. I think their mom's done.
Their mom's done. Okay. Yeah. So it would be unless their dad remarried.
Oh yeah, I guess. And then had or even if he remarries somebody with kids,
then he could have. Absolutely. They could have step siblings one day. And those kiddos might come into your life. You don't know. I think keeping an open heart about it and an open mind and knowing that a family can be defined in many different ways. 100%. Doesn't have to be birth. It can be through stepchildren. It can be through adoption. It can be through anything. Yes. And that's so cool. Yeah. Well, I love this topic.
Yes,
I know it doesn't relate to everybody listening, and I don't want that for people. I think it's important to say, I want to believe that the family unit always will stay together, but also, sometimes your life happens in different ways, and you came into your kiddos' lives, as somebody that thought she was going to have her own children, and they have been such a blessing to you, and I think that's awesome. Yeah. So, well, yay! Thank you for coming on. As usual, anyone that's listening, check us out at cadenlane.com. If you place an order and it gets to you, it's all because of this wonderful woman. And make sure to subscribe if you enjoy our podcast. And you could check this out on video if you want to know what Stacey looks like for her future hot husband that you're going to set her up with. And let's do this again. I definitely want you to come on again. And we'll talk about something more fun.
Okay.
Yeah.